Am I gonna get it for comparing you to Marine Le Pen?
No, not at all. Although I was laughing that you said blonde because I posted on X how this is pre-root touch-up day. So I'm a little bit less blonde than normal, but I promise next time I will be fully fakely blonde.
Okay, not a requirement for the show, Julie.
I know.
All that's required is that you bring your absolute force of will to a topic like this that is the number one trending topic in the world right now. They accomplished what they tried to do against President Trump. They were successful in weaker nations in France. I just want to get off the top, like your take on this news.
I mean, just looking at this now, but this is what they are doing in alleged, democracies now, trying to imprison, especially conservatives, politicians on the right, throw them in jail, prevent them specifically here from being able to run for office. Now, that's exactly what they did here, right? With the 14th Amendment, saying that because allegedly Donald Trump participated in a so-called insurrection, that he should be prevented from holding public office. So this is precisely what the left, the organized left, Marxists across the country, especially in in alleged democracies, are doing. And, this is very, very dangerous territory that we're entering, especially a country like France. And this is going to be repeated. And it really, you have to argue, started here.
It is terrifying because what it shows you is that they're undeterred by President Trump's victory. They've done this in other countries, right? They're trying to do this in England. They've done it in Brazil. This is where it's all going, right? Like I think really makes me so angry. Mike Ben said something to this effect this morning, where this is the single. If you actually care, if you cared about democracy, this is the single worst thing you could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it's going to do is going to push everyone to authoritarianism. Because people would prefer that to fake democracy. That is clearly a sham and rigged system for one single small group of elites that benefit from all of it. And luckily, we were able to get a referendum on that in 2024 in this country. That was pretty resounding. But this is gonna destroy entire it's gonna destroy the system, the functional system of government. Actually, by the more that they pull this operation, we know that it's structural. We know that they've been planning this. This is the goal, and they tried to do it to Trump. They just weren't successful. It's really it's a dire time. It's worth noting.
It really is. It really is. And I'm glad to hear you, make the comparison and others to what happened to President Trump. Had he not won the election, Benny, where the end of March, he would be on trial in Washington, D.C. on Jack Smith's J6 case, facing jurors from a city that had voted for Kamala Harris 92%, and very likely, of course, he would have been convicted by this DC jury. You would have had Judge Tanya Chutkin, who did everything she possibly could to act as a rubber stamp for the Biden DOJ and special counsel Jack Smith. So this is what would have happened to Donald Trump and to the country had he not won the election. They would have really pushed ahead with that 4-count indictment and putting him behind bars so he could never try to run again. And also the other goal of crushing the MAGA movement, which was, of course, a key objective in all of the lawfare against the president.
I want to move on, but it has to be stated: if we don't win, if we don't continue to win, and we have a very good path going forward, Democrats are going to lose a ton of electoral college votes. The entire cultural shift is against them, but they will put Trump in prison again. They will try. If Trump, if we lose in 2028, Trump's going right back to jail, right? That's the goal. Am I wrong on that? Do you agree with that?
Well, they definitely will try to, if a Democrat wins next time in 2028, they definitely will try to concoct new criminal charges against the president. Now, keep in mind, I do recall there's been so much that has happened. The J6 indictment was dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can bring it back, bring that. Now, they won't be able to because it was already mostly gutted by the Supreme Court by the time Jack Smith tried to reconfigure it and advance that case forward before the election. So, but we've seen this, and we know it'll be Donald Trump. It will be JD Vance. It will be members of his cabinet. They will go back to this whole Signal Gate controversy. They're already trying. They're keeping records here, right? They're taking notes about in the opportunity or the scenario where, of course, Donald Trump leaves office in 2029 and a Democrat takes over, what that means in restarting this lawfare, accelerating it, and finally get what they are desperate to do, which is throw Donald Trump in prison and others who have supported him.
I think that just kind of dovetails really nicely into like the special elections that are going to happen in Florida. We'll have some of the candidates actually on the show later in the show, but also what Tyler's doing and Turning Point Action and Elon in Wisconsin. Like, it's not time to like sit back and say, we won, right? And get fat and happy over that. Like, it's not. The only way, I tell you what, I'm really glad I don't live close to Julie Kelly, because I would be getting very fat with her cooking. I watch her cooking. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe the ribeye that you had yesterday. That's freaking awesome. Oh my gosh.
And I'm sorry I did not post pictures of it before we ate it.
Yeah, what's going on with that? You can't do that.
I know. I post it, and then, we go somewhere, and then the family's here and friends, and then you're having some wine, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to post like the finished product. It looked a lot better than just the raw prime rib. It was fabulous, by the way. And I want to say, I kept it at 225 for 4 hours. So that's the basis of the reverse sear. Back in the old days, you blasted it and then turned it down. But now Chef Gruel, of course, our friend, has said, keep it at this low temperature and then blast it. But we were gone for the whole afternoon with friends watching sports, and I left it at 225 for like 4 hours, and it was absolutely divine. So next time, I promise I'll post pictures. Try to remember.
Chef Gruel is an absolute legend. They should put him in charge of all school lunches. This is, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to your X feed. Something. So that's one piece of dead meat on your X feed. Here's another. How do you like that? How do you like that one, Julie? We do this professionally. This is quite a statement this morning about what's potentially up against at the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and the breathtaking brick wall that they will be running into when they get to the business of potential declassifications. I'm just going to read the top line here. Transparency appears to mean the dirty operatives inside and outside the FBI who are still hiding records and info that we want, people demanding outcomes right now, truly have no grasp of how deep the corruption is with 37,000 employee agency, 56 field offices, entrenched, uncooperative bureaucracy. Keep in mind, every field office was involved in the prosecution of J6ers. Do you think Chris Wray would just leave J6 related records on his desk, like for the pipe bomber? I think that there has been a deeply unrealistic expectation about what can be done, like and some huge mistakes that were potentially made in messaging for what can be done, like the first couple days. Obviously, you end by saying if we don't have anything in a year, then it's time to bitch. But right now we have to like grind through the process. Tell me about that process, Julie.
Well, I can only imagine what DOJ, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Emil Bove at DOJ, the top three, and then, of course, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are finding out about the DOJ and the FBI. Of course, the FBI is under the Department of Justice. I can only imagine as I put there, the depth of the corruption, the criminality, the depravity of the people who are not just in charge of the FBI over the past decade, but how this permeated all 56 field offices. And we had to look no further than the J6 prosecutions, which Chris Wray routinely bragged involved all 56 field offices. So this is so pervasive. And imagine what Christopher Wray and the heads of these FBI field offices, for example, that James Dennehy, who we saw strutting out of the New York field office after being forced to resign. He had bagpipers playing. He had weeping. It was like the Beatles, right? Or Elvis Presley. Like, that's how he was treated. Those are the sort of people who have been running the FBI for over a decade at least. So imagine what they have discovered. We can only predict the entrenched bureaucracy that is still trying to withhold documents, withhold records, not disclose what they know to leadership. And this is on all levels. And Benny, I do think you're right. There was the expectations are unrealistic. Some of that was created by the Trump administration themselves. This is going to be mind blowing what they come up with. And in terms of people, I want the Epstein files. And then we've seen other people, I think, make accusations that are not exactly founded, or we don't know, in terms of destroying evidence in the Epstein files. We don't know that that's true. If it is, that requires a lot of investigation, a lot of evidence. You have to interview people. You have to create a case, bring together an indictment, and try to get an indictment from a grand jury in Washington, D.C., very likely. So this is an enormous challenge. And I think for people to say, well, where are the arrests? Where are the charges? We want people in handcuffs. It just does not belie a sincere grasp of the challenge ahead, and then the process that they have to follow to make that actually happen.
There's one thing that you and I have talked about ad nauseum on this program, and we've gotten into every conceivable detail of this, and you're one of the world's greatest historians on it. It was the J6 pipe bomber. You mentioned that here, that Chris Wray ain't just gonna leave here's the piece of evidence. Here it is. Here's the piece of evidence, right? Here's the DNA. Here's the shoe, right? He's not gonna, there it is. It's sitting there on the desk. They're not gonna do that.
No.
But
they're not.
There was news last week that the J6 pipe bomber, that the January 6 documents have been turned over to Congress. You have a lot of sources inside and outside of this DOJ and in Congress. What are we going to get from this? Can you postulate what's going to happen here? And obviously your friend, Kash Patel, has been very motivated to find out what happened with this J6 pipe bomber. He's spoken a lot about it.
I don't know. I mean, those records were put together over the past 4 years under Christopher Wray and Stephen D'Antuono, who is the Washington FBI field office head. And so we've talked about him. He was also head of the Detroit FBI field office during the Whitmer Fednapping. He's a Democratic operative. He has misled Congress. Will they bring charges against him for that? We don't know. But whatever records are there, that's what's there, right? So they can't manufacture truth, or they can't manufacture evidence that they never sought, or evidence that maybe was moved or destroyed. So there is possibly a chance that they might have to start the pipe bomb investigation from scratch. Why? Because we know now with testimony and records that it was in full force in January and February of 2021, the investigation into the pipe bomber, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. The focus that had been created and emphasized on finding that pipe bomber, all of a sudden, 6-8 weeks after January 6th, the FBI just kind of walked away from it. So why is that? The identity of was the person on the video even the pipe bomber? I mean, you and I have talked about the discrepancies in the timeline, certainly the discrepancies in the video that we see. Stephen D'Antuono misled Congress, said that one of the cell phone providers' data that they turned over was corrupted. The cell phone companies came back and said, none of our data is corrupted. If you want it, we'll give it to you. Was that person even the pipe bomber? Or was it someone or two individuals who maybe found the pipe bombs, or, was in the vicinity, especially at the DNC, acting very suspiciously right before the devices were found, that coincided with the first exterior breach and, of course, the joint session of Congress at 1:00. So they might have all the records. They might determine that they have to start from square one. We don't know. We should know soon, because we know that those records have been produced to Congress. So hopefully we'll find out something shortly. But that's just one angle of January 6th. The informants, we got a very lackluster report from DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz claiming, a few dozen FBI informants. We know that there were a lot more FBI assets and undercovers from other law enforcement agencies. So this is just scratching the surface of what they are going to be looking at and what probably has been squirreled away in little dark corners of this massive 37,000 employee agency. So I think that cautioning people and asking for patience is appropriate, and reminding everyone of this formidable challenge that they all face at DOJ and FBI right now.
I just had to, Julie, touch on one more J6 pressure point that is quite remarkable given the news cycle that we are currently in with this Judge Boasberg, who miraculously, just like Juan Merchan, gets all the Trump cases. It's incredible. Like, just one guy gets them all, right? There are hundreds of judges, thousands of judges, but just one pulls a lot. Got to go to the casino with these guys. Judge Boasberg's the guy who, like, let Ray Epps walk.
Yes.
Yo, that's crazy, Julie. And I mean, again, we have demonstrable video evidence that there is one single person who was actually fomenting a riot at the Capitol, and that is Ray Epps. Mm-hmm. I would argue if there's somebody who deserves to catch a case, it's the pipe bomber and Ray Epps, actually. And I wouldn't argue with that, in fact. And yet those are the two people who have been just disappeared, vanished, or were let off, with a slap on the wrist. Now, is this normal for Boasberg? Like, is this something that he normally did? Is this something that he would regularly do? Let off J6ers? What's going on with this?
No, in fact, Benny, I just posted it. I think it was over the weekend, but I'm working on a piece. Hopefully, it will be on my Substack Declassified tomorrow about Jeb Boasberg's belief, and he stated this in a 2022 sentencing hearing. He said there's a strong argument that everyone who was there that day on January 6th should go to jail. Everyone. And this man who was being sentenced was 68-year-old man from Pennsylvania, no criminal record, was inside the Capitol peacefully and pleaded guilty to the parading petty offense, one of the most common misdemeanors. And here was Jeb Boasberg in 2022 saying there's a strong argument all J6, not even J6ers, anyone who was there should go to jail. That means anyone who was there even outside the Capitol. But here he is crying tears, losing sleep over the fact that illegal Venezuelans tied to this very dangerous international criminal racket, TDA, that has been designated a foreign terrorist organization by the Trump administration, so concerned that they are going to be mistreated in an El Salvador prison. So once again, the double standard, you can't make it up. But Jeb Boasberg, through at least 55 J6ers, including those convicted of low-level misdemeanors in federal prison, right? This isn't going to the county jail. This isn't even going to, some white-collar prison camp. This is hard time, including for women who he sent to the Philadelphia, in one case, Philadelphia federal prison for legitimate criminals. Now, did he worry how this woman was going to be treated? No. But here is Jeb Boasberg continually saying in his orders and opinions and court hearings, gee, how are these Venezuelan illegals going to be treated in El Salvador? They're going to be tormented. They're going to be starved. They could be beaten. What did he think was going to happen to Trump supporters with no criminal records going to some of the most dangerous federal prisons in this country?
The banality of evil. The banality of evil.
Yes.
They actually want their fellow citizens. They view us as less than human. It's so awful. I mean, it's so truly. I mean, it's true. I don't. There's a lot of Americans that I think are wrecking the country. I don't like them at all. But as long as you're not convicted on a terrorism charge, I want you to live a peaceful, happy life. I don't wish a physical harm to you, because you're my fellow American. You're my countrymen. But these people do actually think that half the country are terrorists, and they wish ill on us. They treat them as less than human. It is a pathology. Okay, to that point, very quickly, Trump saying, "Yo, I'm going to relook into this Ashli Babbit murder." Mm-hmm. You said this was Greg Kelly, your friend and mine, the other day on an interview. And he says this cop is a real piece of work. He left his handgun loaded in a bathroom stall inside of the visitor center with all the little kids in it. And Ashli Babbit she's 5 feet tall, she was unarmed, and she was summarily murdered without cause, warning, and with the full celebration of the media, and then Nancy Pelosi awards Michael Byrd a promotion.
That's right.
What should happen next now that Trump's interested in this?
I think they should reopen the investigation into Michael Byrd. Now, the DOJ, Biden's DOJ, claimed that they performed or opened a civil rights investigation into Michael Byrd. Now, of course, this is the same DOJ running around the country investigating police departments for violating civil rights of their citizens. But when it came to Michael Byrd, they immediately closed the investigation, said there was no evidence that he violated her civil rights, which of course he did, among other things. Michael Byrd, from other investigations and reporting, he has a long record of misconduct, both in uniform and out of uniform. And then, as you recall, Benny, his name was withheld from the media. The media was part of that cover-up for months, even though they knew his name, would not reveal it because of threats against him. Then he was protected, paid for, housed, hidden away at one of the military bases that we paid for because, again, of these threats. And then he got promoted. So I have to believe that the civil rights division of this DOJ will reopen that investigation to the extent that there ever was one, and finally get some justice for Ashli Babbit and her family.
Yeah, we checked. We're no lawyers, Julie, but we checked, and there's no statute of limitations on murder in cold blood. So
that's right.
Yeah, so that would be really nice. And Harmeet, and Leo Terrell holding up that civil rights division. That's going to be great.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's invite them on, shall we? And let's ask a couple questions. We can get this drum beat going, okay? Julie Kelly always giving us good ideas, whether it's cooking, okay, or whether it's how to like make sure that these criminals and murderers are cooked by our justice system. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody follow Julie Kelly. And we expect you, Julie, to wear this shirt next time you're on the program, okay? If you don't wear this shirt next time you're on, you got to have it. We got to have verbal confirmation. Will you be wearing the shirt next time?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I promise. I can wear it tomorrow.
Make America blonde again.
I won't look as good as Caroline, but, well, for many reasons. But at any rate, I promise I'll be blonder next time.
What an interesting setup. Okay, all right. We love you, Julie. Nothing but hearts.
Love you
Julie.
back.
Godspeed.
Okay.